For the exam, you need to know all of these values. You either need to memorise them or have a way to work them out without using a calculator because they will appear on the non-calculator paper. I'm going to show you a method for working them out without using a calculator. For this method, you need to use your left hand or a sketch of a left hand like I've got here. You need to know that these values belong to each of these fingers. When you're starting to learn this method, you can actually write them on with a pen if you want to. You need to remember three things. Sine is on the left and cos is on the right. I'll explain this in more detail in a moment. We square root the fingers and divide by 2. This sounds really weird, but I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So let's say we wanted to work out what cos 30 was. You put down the finger with the 30 on it. Now obviously on my sketch I can't put that down, so I'm just going to scribble it out. I want cos 30. Cos is on the right, so I count how many fingers are on the right. I can see I've got 1, 2, 3. Now it tells me to square root the fingers, so that's the square root of 3, and divide by 2. So the value of cos 30 is root 3 over 2. So we now know that cos 30 is root 3 over 2. Let's do sin 30 now. We want to put down the 30 finger. Remember on my diagram, I'm just scribbling that out. Sin is on the left. There's one finger on the left. Remember, we square root the fingers, so that's the square root of 1, and divide by 2. Now the square root of 1 is actually just 1. So this is actually a half. So we now know that sin 30 is a half. I'm going to do one more before I let you have a go. I'm going to do cos 90. So we put down or scribble out the 90 finger. Cos is on the right. There are no fingers on the right. So when I square root the fingers, that's the square root of 0, and divide by 2. The square root of 0 is 0, and 0 divided by 2 is still 0. So cos 90 is 0. Now can you try using this method to calculate sin 60 and cos 60? Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play. So your working out should look like this. And sin 60 is root 3 over 2, whilst cos 60 is a half. Now that you've got the hang of this method, calculate the remaining 5 values of sin and cos. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play. Here are the answers, and you can check your working out down here. Now I can hear you saying, that's all well and good, but what about tan? Well, there's a slightly different method for tan. We divide the fingers on the left by the fingers on the right, and then square root. So, let me show you tan 30. We scribble out the 30 finger, or if you're using a real hand, of course, you can just put that down. The fingers on the left, we've got 1. For the fingers on the right, we've got 3. So we've got 1 divided by 3. We then square root this. Now this gives me root 1 over root 3. The square root of 1 is 1, so this is just 1 over root 3. In the same way, for tan 0, I scribble out the 0 finger, divide the fingers on the left, that's none, by the fingers on the right, that's 4, and then square root. Now this is the square root of 0 divided by the square root of 4. The square root of 0 is 0, square root of 4 is 2, but 0 divided by 2 is just 0, so tan 0 is actually 0. Now try and work out these two yourself. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play. Here are the answers, with the working out over here. If you're wondering why you don't have to know tan 90, try using this method to work it out, and you'll soon see why. Now picture the scene. It's exam day. Yesterday you fell off your bike, broke your arm, and your left hand is entirely in plaster. Is there anything you can do to rescue the situation? Well, yes, actually, there is. You can use a bit of maths to help you. You need to start by drawing an equilateral triangle. It's got sides of length 2. Drop a perpendicular down here, so we've now got a right angle. Because it was an equilateral triangle, we know that there's a 60-degree angle here, and we've cut this one up here in half, so this is 30 degrees. I'm going to just take this part of the triangle now and enlarge it a little. Now we know that the base here is 1 because it's half of this length of 2, and we can work out this using Pythagoras' theorem. So using Pythagoras, I know that this length x is now root 3. Now, using simple trigonometry, I can work out sin, cos and tan for 30 and 60. So for example, if I want the sin of 60, that's the opposite over the hypotenuse, so that's root 3 over 2. If I want the cos of 30, that's the adjacent over the hypotenuse, so that's root 3 over 2. And if I want the tan of 60, that's the opposite over the adjacent, so that's root 3 over 1, which is just root 3. So this triangle will get all the values of sin, cos and tan for 30 and 60 for you. Now let's look at how we do 45. We need a slightly different triangle. We're going to draw a length of 1, a base of 1, so we have a right angle here, and a hypotenuse. This angle will be 45 degrees, and this angle will be 45 degrees. In the same way as before, I can use Pythagoras to work out the length of the hypotenuse. That's root 2. And again, using basic trigonometry, I can now find all the values of sin, cos and tan for 45 degrees. For example, sin 45 is opposite over hypotenuse. The opposite is 1 and the hypotenuse is root 2, so sin 45 is 1 over root 2. If you understand all of this, then it shouldn't be too difficult for you to memorize these values as well, and once you've got all of that, then everything is covered. Now, using any of the methods that I've just shown you, write down the exact values of all of these. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play. Here are the answers.